My name is Inge Patsch and welcome to series Social Business. What is the difference between a social business and CSR is today our question. So therefore I would like to first define CSR. The idea that a company should be interested and willing to help society and the environment as well as be concerned about the products and profit it makes. Cambridge Dictionary about CSR. So CSR is a company's activity which is expressing more than just like self-interest, but looking outside into how are my stakeholders doing, how is environment around me doing. So normally CSR is like a separated approach. It's the voluntary engagement of an organization into its activities. With voluntary, I don't mean changing like permanently, but eventually it is the definition of the organization, CEO, what to do. There are some countries in the world, for example India, which I think is forcing companies above a certain revenue to dedicate a certain percentage of their profit into CSR. But then again, it's all about control also. So CSR is normally on top of a normal business model. So you have your ordinary business model, and then on top of this, you're doing social project, which should be related and aligned with what you're actually into. So if you're in telecommunication, probably these projects are from telecommunication backgrounds. If you're into mobility, maybe from mobility. But at the end, it's on top of what you do as a business. I would claim that CSR is easier to implement. I mean, it's also not easy to implement, and there are wonderful, beautiful CSR activities. I myself was working once upon a time as a CSR officer to bring social business to Nepal. So there are great initiatives. All in all, I would still say because of this separation, it's easy to implement it, and it's also in terms of crisis, you can easily drop it or saying you reduce simply your CSR activities. Kim Alta has made this very beautiful spectrum where she is describing comparing things, where we see on the left hand side we see the traditional non-profit, which is based on donations or governmental funds and subsidies, and we see on the all right side the traditional for-profit. So here we have the two categories which we're used to thinking. And then if I move like from right to left, the second we would see is a corporation practicing social responsibility. So this would be the CSR, where you say, okay, you have a corporation which is of course still for profit, so it still has a profit-making activity, and it's mainly accountable to its shareholders. But then there is the social responsibility, and which it looks after. The next one on the spectrum would be a social responsible business. So still the profit making is like central, but already it leans a bit further towards saying, okay, to have a proper social impact is still a very, really big issue for us. And then like if you like cross this spectrum, and it's a very thin line where you say, okay, now it switches and now the mission motive is more in essential. That's where there is social enterprise as well as social business at home, social business being a part of social enterprise. And then if you would even go one step further in this spectrum, you would have the non-profits which have some income generating activities. This is if big non-profits are generating some 10, 15, 30, 50% of their costs from any kind of business activities, in addition to donations or grants they would get. So I like actually simple drawings. So for me, CSR is, if you see like the yellow is the profit, this is the business model, and then you take the green or the blue one, which would be considered the social activities around. And then for me, the type A to type D social businesses are like, rather than having yellow and blue separated, is like when it's green, you know, like if you say both are really merged into each other and you're not able to really separate it because it's like one thing and you cannot disintegrate them. Even for type E social businesses, which are described in a separate video more closer, as well as type A to type D, and type E social businesses have this part of the business which is actually running and creating profit while then cross-financing things. Even type E social businesses are for me more integrated because it should be like in the blood of the business to also spread the message about the community you want to support or other things, for example. Because it's such a hard to actually separate things, saying where do you draw the line between mission orientation as well as the profit orientation, because very often from the outside, if you look at case studies, you cannot really say it, no? Maybe that's the reason why Professor Yunus has made this very clear-cut point, saying, for me, in my definition, a social business is only a social business if there is no dividend distribution at all, because this would very clearly show that there is like not anymore the preference on the shareholder side, but probably more on the stakeholder level. Whether or not we need to go that far, well, this is a highly disputed topic actually in the field of social entrepreneurship, social business, how to handle the dividend. I personally like a lot the approach the common good economy has been taking, saying basically you should always tend to go towards no dividend, and I also agree upon this, but then they differentiate in saying how high is the dividend, and is it like below or above the annual inflation rate, and then you get some more or some less points. I also tend to follow both ideas. Yunus saying, okay, no dividend at all. On the other hand, I'm also a social entrepreneur myself, and I know how often and how many times you need to take the risk. Like there is, your employees will not take the financial risk in terms of like now there is the COVID crisis. It is us as entrepreneur taking the risk. So I would appreciate a certain level of dividend for this reason that you're also the one who's taking the risk. But then I'm fully with the common good economy, saying there should be absolute top line on saying, okay, it shouldn't need to be more than a few percent maximum of annual dividend, in my opinion, and also only in very risk-driven cases. So I'm not fully decided on that topic, but I think this could be a central discussion point. Talking about Corona is also like, this is another point where you can clearly see if something is a social business or a CSR, is like how does an organization decide in case there is any trouble. So I hope with this short discussion I have given you a short insight on what's the difference between social business and CSR. And well, I hope to see you soon again for another video. For more information, please visit my website or follow me on this channel. Thank you.